everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and this is my part 6 of the covering the Delphi trial, at least in the profiling aspects of it. There isn't a whole lot that came out today, but I really want to clear things up because I've heard so many comments. I've had so many. I'm going to read some of the comments people have made, and this is why I do this, because a lot of people just do not understand how things work. And this is what I want to clear up. One of the things that right away happens, let me read this one. This is a YouTube comment. I think this is on the last video I did. Pat is believing a podcaster because I recommended Lawyer Lee and her channel. Why did I do that? Because I listened to a portion of it and I was very pleased with what I heard. She obviously is spending a lot of time in the court, taking down notes, and then she's explaining the legal aspects of those things. That is why I thought I like educational stuff. And so I recommended her channel. And I don't do that very often because I really like educational stuff and not just a bunch of gossip. Pat is believing a podcaster who is a defense attorney and is also defense biased for her inaccurate information. Don't jump to conclusions of the biased monetized podcasters. Well, I'm monetized too, so I guess anything I say you can't believe. First, and I love the way people tell me, Pat is believing. No, Pat is not believing. I am listening to what she has to say. And she has the right to her opinion on things, as I have the right to my opinion on things. And this is how it works. Lawyer Lee is an attorney, and she is explaining a lot of the court issues. I am not an attorney. I am a profiler. I look at human behavior, crime scene evidence, and that kind of thing. And I analyze the evidence of the scene, and I look at it from a criminal profiler's point of view. She is looking at it more from an attorney's point of view. I'm not an attorney, and she is not a profiler. I may end up disagreeing if she comes forth with some conclusions. I may think, well, as a lawyer, I see where you're coming from, but as a profiler, I may disagree, or we may agree. I don't know. As long as she has the right to an opinion. She is not on the jury. She has a right to an opinion and to explain. And that's why I like her, because she explains. Now, I may not agree with her conclusion, but at least I like the fact that she's explaining where she's coming from. And that is what I always do. I never just give an opinion because I think that's worthless. I give an opinion, a determination, a conclusion based on evidence. And then you out there can think about it and decide whether it makes sense. Now, neither Lawyer Lee nor myself, we're not on this jury. And a lot of people are saying, like, well, you've already come to a conclusion and the trial hasn't even finished. Well, don't you think we know that? We are not coming to a final conclusion. We're having an opinion based on what we've seen so far. And I say this when I've done every video. So here's what we have so far, and here's where I see the trial at the moment. And then I say, well, here's what I think we need to see in order to, if the prosecution wants to convict, they're going to have to come up with this. If the defense wants to show reasonable doubt, they'd have to come up with such and such. And Lawyer Lee is doing some similar thing, but from the attorney angle, and I'm doing it from the profiler angle. We're educating. If you don't want to be educated, please jump off to a channel that will just tell you what you want to hear. So that's the first thing. Now, next, okay, what other things are really interesting at this point in time? There is really very little new information that has come out. The most important one, in my opinion, which is unfortunate, and I believed it would be this way, is the hair in Abby's hand is, they determined it was a female relative of Libby. Okay, so that is what I expected. Why did I expect that? Not that I absolutely knew, but why I expected that. A lot of times when people are attacked, one of the things they do, especially if they're choked, in this case not so, but as far as we know, but a lot of times their own hair gets in the way and they end up with their own hair in their hand. So I wouldn't have been surprised that the hair came from the person who was holding it. However, these two girls were also together a lot, and clothes were put on one that were from the other, so that a piece of any kind of hair hanging on a clothing might have ended up in somebody's hand. Also not unusual. So I expected that this would probably not be the killer's hair, and I wish it was. My gosh, I wish it was. I just didn't expect it to be, and it turned out not to be. So that's a bummer in the sense that regardless of whether Alan is guilty or not, the hair would have been fabulous. If Alan's hair were at the scene in a girl's hand, he would be cooked because there would be no way to explain that away. The defense attorneys would go, what am I going to say? He was walking through the area looking at those fish and his hair fell out of his head, and which he doesn't have much of anyway. So, and it happened to fall out in her hand and turn blonde. But okay. So anyway, to explain it would be hard. So if there were like some gray hairs from a beard or from some hairs from a hair on his head, she reached up and grabbed him and it matched Alan, done deal. That kind of evidence you can't explain away. You can sometimes explain away hair evidence when you have somebody who lives with another person, and so you find the dead person with a piece of hair on them, and the hair belongs to somebody else who lives in the home or as a friend who visits. But he would have no explanation why his hair would be in one of the girl's hands. On the other hand, if the hair did not belong to him or the girls, and they could actually determine that it was, somebody else, that would be very beneficial to the defense. But as it stands, it's meaningless, sadly, in this crime. A lot of DNA tests were done and came back with zero. There's no proof that the girls were sexually assaulted, although this does not mean it's not a sexual crime. A perpetrator of a crime like this can get his jollies in certain ways. He can enjoy being with the girls and doing what he's doing to them, and then go off into the woods and do whatever he wants to do. He can use a condom. He can just love the fantasy and go home, and that will be his nightly routine for the next 10 years. So just because there's not a proven sexual assault does not mean it's sex was not included in the crime in the mind of the killer. Now, mind you, serial killers and anybody who would kill two girls just like this is basically a serial killer. If they get another chance or have had the chance before, they would do it because they love what they do. The power and control is the main reason they commit these kind of crimes. Power and control. And sometimes power and control does not mean sexual assault. David Berkowitz, son of Sam, said, I'm not going to rape you. I'm only going to kill you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Because he liked to shoot people. And so sex doesn't have to be involved in a serial homicide. And doesn't have to be part of a serial killer's choice. It usually is. Why? Well, why not? Most serial killers would say. I might as well get that too, And it also causes more torture for their victims, more fear for the victims, more humiliation for the victims. So hey, rape really works well, but some of them don't do it for a number of reasons. So yeah, so there's no DNA, any semen DNA, that kind of thing at the scene. And as a matter of fact, his DNA isn't at the scene. So here's another question I get. Well, hey, if his DNA is not at the scene, he didn't do it. Bridge guy's DNA, whether it's him or not, Bridge guy's DNA is not at the scene. Nobody's male DNA is at the scene. Therefore, nobody did it. I'm pretty sure somebody abducted those girls and cut their throats. Somebody did it. So somebody, whoever they are, didn't leave DNA at the scene. So we can't say it's not Alan. We can't say it is Alan because whoever did it didn't leave DNA. So there you go. So that, to say it's not him because his DNA isn't there, that's not proof of him not being there. It's just proof that the killer didn't leave DNA. So, but the problem is this: there is nothing physically to link Alan to the murder of these two girls. Not the hair, no DNA, no fingerprints, no anything except that bullet. But that bullet is the only physical evidence. And as I've spoken about this before, the problem with the bullet is although it could have been his because he had a gun like the gun that would have been there, that would have used that kind of bullet. He had the ammo like that. Good information. I mean, oh my gosh, definitely could be him. And we had an expert that came out for the prosecution who tried to claim that the cycling through the gun left some tool marks that when she shot the gun, they matched, and it wasn't highly convincing. Interesting, but not highly convincing. So the only physical evidence that could link him to the crime that exists is that bullet that was cycled through a gun that could have been his gun. Could have been. Now understand this. I'm talking about, when I talk about this case, I'm not talking about what I think. I'm talking about, is there enough to convict somebody based on the evidence? So far, no DNA, no fingerprints, and this bullet is weak because it doesn't absolutely prove it was linked to him. So that's a major problem. So at this point, they've got zero physical evidence. I want to point out something. Somebody asked me about this. When I explained why somebody would rack the gun, and therefore the bullet would flip out of the gun, cycle, and end up on the ground between the two girls. A lot of people didn't understand what I was saying, and they were like, well, if he did that when he was saying down the hill, wouldn't the bullet be there if he was trying to scare them down the hill? Now, that's not what I said. So down the hill, when you point a gun at somebody and say, go that way, they will likely just go that way. When you get them to a specific location, and now you want to control them 100%, where they feel like in the next second they're going to die, then you say, what I would say if I were a killer, if I were a bridge guy, I could see him saying to the girls, get on the ground, racking the gun, so they know that there's a bullet in there that's going to kill them if they don't get on the ground face down, so that he can then control two people. I think that's when the bullet went between the two women, is when bridge guy went, get on the ground, and they went down. And at that point, that's when you can easily control two people. You take out a knife and you cut one's throat, and then you cut the other one's throat. I mean, it's very easy at that point, because you can say things like, if you don't cooperate, I'll kill your friend. But both of them, they hear the gun, they know something, they can be shot. And they're worried about the gun at that point. That's not necessarily a knife, because I don't know that he had the knife out at that point. And so they're not expecting necessarily that suddenly they're going to be grabbed and their throat is going to be cut. And considering that there's a lot of blood there, they were definitely killed there. There didn't seem to be a lot of blood on, well, nobody saw, one woman saw what she thought was a guy walking down the road that had blood on the lower part of his pants. But certainly, if you cut somebody's throat and they're face up and you're leaning over them, you're going to get blood all over you. If I were cutting somebody's throat, I make sure they were prone, and so I can grab them by the back of the head and cut their throat, and the blood goes this way. Now, he may have turned them over after that. That's a whole nother matter. But that's what I meant by when I said I can see why the bullet would end up there. It's not because he did it when he was on the bridge, but after he got the girls to the location. Now, I can't prove that. So I'm giving what would, as a criminal profiler, what I've seen other psychopaths do when they're trying to control people. I'm not saying that's absolutely what happened. I'm simply saying that at least this is a logical reason why he might do that and why there might be a bullet there. Because a lot of people are saying, oh, that bullet probably has nothing to do with this case. I don't believe that's true. I believe that bullet was, it's right there where the girls are. And the probabilities of it being connected to the crime are very high. And it's very unlikely that this was just a bullet drop for no reason whatsoever by somebody just wandering through the exact spot prior. So I do think it probably is connected. Can't prove it's connected, and can't prove it's connected to him. This is where the problems come in. All right, so the physical evidence is very, very minimal. Then people go on to the facts. Let me see what some people say. Uh, um, somebody pointed out, I thought this was interesting. You actually can see. I said that, his claim that he could see, he went to watch the fishes, from the top of the bridge. I'm thinking, that's a hell of a high bridge. You can see fish from there. Somebody said you can actually see the fishes from the bridge. Just to clarify that. Can't post pictures, otherwise we'll post it. Um, I would like the prosecution should actually do something like that. I haven't heard anything about that yet, but hey, I want to know, can you actually see fish from way up there? I mean, not that I think it seems a little odd that he would find that particularly amusing that he needed to go look at fish from a bridge. Now, if he were at the very ends of the bridge looking down, he's close to the water, I guess you could see the fishes there. But if you're up on the top of the bridge, can you see fish from that distance? I mean, are they really huge fish? Or are they teeny little, guppy type things? I mean, I'd like to know. I haven't seen anything on that. I thought it was interesting, and the prosecution could make something of that. Um, this person, I thought the Odinism theory was BS until I heard the guards had Odinism patches on their official uniforms. That there might be some people who are interested in Odinism is that can be. There are people. I mean, if there were some people who had a cross around their neck, does that mean they're, involved in a crime? Or even if you have a satanic symbol around your neck, does it mean you're involved in a crime? No, it doesn't. The question is the crime an Odinist sacrifice of two young girls? And there's no evidence that the Odinists are into sacrificing anybody. It's just some guys who have a particular spiritual / religious view, whatever, that they're allowed to have. If you look at, for example, there's per people who are into black magic, people who are into being white witches, pagan religion type things. A lot of females are into that. Does it mean they commit brutal, murderous crimes? No. So unless you have something that really, truly links that to the crime, and they do not, that's the problem. There's no proof at this crime that there's anything at the crime. The sticks on the bodies do not mean that, and blood on the tree. I looked all the Odinist silly stuff. I've linked that stuff below, so you can go and check it out. Odinism can exist without having anything to do with this crime. But if you're looking for something to make it not be Alan, yeah, okay. Now some people say, well, how does that exclude? Why would they go there then? Well, because it would exclude Alan because he's not known to be an Odinist, and they just want some other suspects. So that's why they would say that. But let's go to motive then. People get real confused about the motive. Why then would, if it's not Odinist and it's Alan, well, whoever it is Bridge Guy. And some people saying, oh, it's not even Bridge Guy yet. Oh, okay, stop. It's Bridge Guy. I don't even want to get into maybe it wasn't him, it was somebody else behind him. Okay, let's go with Bridge Guy. Why would he put sticks over the girls? I'm a criminal profiler, and I can tell you, I have no idea. You know why? Because I'm not committing that crime. It's not my fantasy. People think somehow criminal profiles get into the heads of all serial killers and stuff, and we know exactly why they do whatever they do. No, we don't. And if we say we do, we're lying because it sounds cool. If I go, oh, for him, the piling of the sticks upon the girls, it meant to him that he had encaged them. Or some people, maybe he felt guilty. No, the person who killed these girls does not feel guilty about anything. I guarantee you that. So that's a psychopath and a half. Not going to feel guilty. So when people say, oh, the serial killer put the blanket over the woman's head because he felt bad. No, he didn't. He might have covered her up because he didn't want people looking through the window to see a dead body there. He might have done it because he said, you done. Ha ha. You thought you're pretty. Can't even see you now. I don't know because I'm not there and I'm not them, but guilt is not part of it. So was he covering up, putting sticks on them because he was intending to cover up their bodies more? Even though they were supposed to be in that area and everybody knew they were going to be in that area, so kind of waste of time. But who knows? I don't know why he did it, bridge guy, but he did it. And it's not important to actually try to figure it out. And even if you caught the right guy, if it's Alan or somebody else, and you said, "Why did you put those sticks?" Since the guy's a psychopath, half the time he'll lie to you. Well, why did that? Because, yeah, okay. And we're supposed to believe you. Why? It doesn't matter. The only time it would matter is if the sticks were cut in a certain way that the killer also cut sticks on another occasion, or he used sticks at that location that he had at his house, as if it were actual evidence that would link to the killer, then it would matter. On occasion, when a killer does the rare signature thing, which is overplayed in Hollywood, there's a difference between MO and signature. MO is modus operandi or method of operation, something you do to commit the crime. The girls' throats were cut. That kills them. That's theoretically MO. But signature is something they do just for their own pleasure, and it's just part of their fantasy. Well, cutting their throats would be the same thing. So I don't know. Pick which one you want. But if they do something particularly unusual, there was a Korean serial killer who stuck peaches up the vaginas of his victims. That's unusual. Why did he do that? I don't know. Maybe he had a lot of peaches. Again, I don't know, but he did that. Now, the usefulness of that is if you find a woman with a peach upper, you can say, must be the same dude, as long as you didn't get that information out to the community, right? So there are the rare times when the killer does something so unique that it helps link crimes. The majority of the time, most serial killers do such basic stuff. They jump out of the bushes, they strangle a woman, rape her, and then they walk away. And you can't tell one, you could have 10 women with you can go to VICAP, the FBI thing, and you try to link the crimes together. You find like across the nation, 50 women who were all strangled and raped and left by the side of a bike path. You could have 50 different serial killers because it's just basic. On the other hand, some of those might be linked, but who knows? And then just because a person strangles doesn't mean the next time they won't stab the person instead. Like, man, when I strangled her, she like ripped at me. I don't like that. Next time I'm just going to. So the MO changes. So it's a little more complicated than people think, and way less useful the majority of the time than people think as well. So motive a lot of times is all I can ever say, which I can say 100% of the time is true. Serial killers love power and control, and they want to play out their fantasy. To them, it's fun. This is a big fat thrill because they get to do something that is they're going to do this thing that they playing God with somebody's life, and they're doing something so horrific and so awful, and they get to see the fear and terror on the faces of their victims. They like that. I can tell you that. But I can't to get into all the little other nonsense is mostly a waste of time. Okay, so now let's go to a couple of the comments, and I want to go to his confession issues. I think, well, maybe I did cover this. Okay. Okay. You get people say, I don't think this is the right person for the crime. And it may or may not be. But so far, of the suspects they've had, I will say as a profile, he's the best suspect they have because he self-reported after the crime, having been seen in the park. He was there way back when. The one person they absolutely know was at the bridge, approximately the time the girls were killed. He should have been the top of the suspect list right away, and massive incompetence had him filed away. Somebody said, oh, why isn't the FBI working on the case? Because people keep thinking FBI roll in on every single murder case. They do not. That is not what they're involved in. They're involved in bigger stuff, not local crime. And they rarely get involved in that. Mostly, well, first of all, the local police aren't that thrilled about the FBI coming in, and it doesn't mean the FBI is any better. This concept that the FBI would come in and they would have solved that crime right away. No, it's garbage. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at what they do sometimes occasionally get pulled in on is serial homicides that are widespread and all over the media. So they'll finally they go, okay, the local police department goes, okay, whatever, come in and see what you can do. And a lot of times, that was my phone in case you heard a weird noise. It sounded like a fart. Like, that wasn't me, it was the phone going across the glass table. Okay, anyway, just sounded funny to me. Anyway, so let me get control of myself. I get people who like, you're not very professional. You laugh during your shows, and yeah, they're live. I don't edit, and things happen. Okay, so sometimes they get called in on a case that the media has just pummeled the police department, and they can't solve it, like Green River Killer, Long Island, and I have not seen a great deal of evidence that the FBI has come in and solved these crimes. Most of the time, they get solved in some other way that has nothing to do with the FBI. So do not believe the FBI has great abilities in certain areas, especially testing and things like that, and certainly with extortion crimes and the cartels, the big stuff. But with the local crimes, they're not usually involved, and that's why they're not. It's not like they just roll in. But was this handled well at the beginning? No, it wasn't. And one of the problems we have is certain police departments that are smaller. The training is minimal. And even in big police departments, most detectives don't go to any kind of detective school. They don't get profiling training or evidence training. They don't get any of that stuff. They're usually on the street working, beat cop, they whatever the areas, they run around their cruisers and they patrol officers and other stuff, and sometimes it goes on for years, and maybe then if they get lucky they might get moved into detective role, maybe in robbery, maybe they'll get into child abuse, domestic sex crimes, and homicide, but and they might get to go to a seminar here and there, but the actual training is like really bad. And I'm not going to entirely blame the police department on that because they're understaffed and underfunded. So, you can only, blame them so much for something they can't even deal with and can't do something about. So anyway, the police department, they blew it. They blew it right up front. The first 48 are the most important, and so is the first week, because a lot of times when you have a situation like that and you're interviewing people, the killer is actually in the first interviews. And they had this guy in the park, and how they did not focus on him more is insane. I think I pointed out in this last video. Let's go through the numbers again. 50, I guess it's less than 50% of the population is male. So 50% of the people there not involved. Some are small children, not involved. Some are elderly, not involved. So there's only so many men that could have committed the crime to be bridge guy. So they should have been all over him. All right, now I want to go to the confession stuff. All right. So the Holman gets in court, and he says these two things which are very interesting, but what does it really mean as far as the court case goes? Coleman recalled the conversation he had with Allen during the search and shortly before his arrest. Even though Allen was considered a suspect at that time, Holman admitted he did not record the conversation while the pair sat in a police car. There you go, defense wins on that one. Because he didn't record it, he's just chatting. And let me tell you, I don't know that Allen said the things that Holman said he said. I also don't know he said them the way Holman said he said, because I've heard people say what Pat Brown said and it ain't what I said. Or it's close, but it's not with this, it's out of context. So he says, Holman testified that he told Allen that once the search was done, he could file a claim for any damage to his house. But Allen told him, it doesn't matter, it's over. Now that is a hell of a statement. Why would he say that? Because if he doesn't think he's guilty, if he knows he's not guilty, if he's not guilty, he didn't kill the girls, he wouldn't want his house wrecked, and he wouldn't think it's over, because he'd get himself a damn fine defense attorney and say, what the hell do you even have on me? You've looked through my damn house, you got nothing. You're not going to find a weapon. You're not going to find anything to connect me to that crime. And as a matter of fact, it's been how many years? And I self-reported, I did the right thing. You show up years later because you're all incompetent. You go through my entire house and you find zero. Have at it, dude. We'll go after the money. Why would he say it doesn't matter, it's over? That is a self-incriminating statement where he's basically admitting nothing you do from this point matters, because you've caught me. It is over. But I have to believe that Holman heard him correctly. And I don't have proof of that. And so it doesn't matter whether you think Alan is guilty or not. What matters is what proof it can be put in court. The next thing he says, Holman also revealed for the first time that investigators believe Alan may have heard somebody who interrupted his alleged attack on the girls on the trail. So maybe this is reasonable. Maybe what was happening was he didn't get to complete what he wanted to do, bridge guy, and was interrupted. But how is it? I don't understand how they're saying Alan was interrupted, because so far I don't know what do they have, what proof do they have? I don't understand it. I don't. Maybe if you've been in court, or maybe over to lawyer Lee and she said something, if you have information on exactly why they think he was interrupted, what proof do they have other than a theory? I theorize it's very possible, but that's not proof again. Then the last one here. Holman told the court that he told Alan during an interview, "You realize the death penalty is on the table," to which Alan responded, "I don't care. Kill me. I want to die anyway." And that's when he decided to arrest Alan. All right. Again, I don't know that's what Alan said. I don't know the context. Again, it sounds like he's saying, "You got me. I don't care if you kill me because my life is crap. So just go ahead. I don't even care." But is that what he really meant? And I don't know. So here is where I think we stand. Physical evidence is zero. Yes, he self-reported being on the trail. That does not mean it was him. People say, well, he self-reported, so he said he was there, so it was him. No, he said he was there, and he said he did not commit the crime. Just because he said he was there doesn't mean he's bridge guy. Oh, but he was wearing clothes that were similar to bridge guy. He said he was wearing some clothes like that. Bridge guy's clothes are not overly unique. If I understand the difference between a person of interest and a person that can be convicted. As a person of interest, I'm all over this dude. A guy who admits he's there wearing the same clothes as the guy that was there. Yeah, I'm looking at this guy. He'd be my top person of interest, maybe my top suspect. So he would go to the top of the list, and I would be putting extra effort into looking at him. But then in order, in my opinion, to arrest him, I have to have enough evidence. And I don't know. I really don't know what the evidence was that I don't know. Maybe I have to go. Maybe I missed the probable cause thing for arrest. To what did they really have? It's a very confusing case. What did they really have that was strong enough that he should have been arrested at the time he was arrested? That he said some weird things. So they thought he was the guy. I mean, and then to actually charge him is the next step. And then to go to court and prosecute him, you'd think they go to court with solid evidence. Now, once they had him in jail, then these supposed future confessions come out. I still don't know what the confessions are. And this is why I keep saying there's zero physical evidence. You guy who self-reported that he was in the area at the time is not proof he's bridge guy. It's very interesting. It makes him a person of interest. Does not prove he's bridge guy. At this point, no physical evidence links him to bridge guy. The only thing that can link him to bridge guy, the guy who killed the girls, is if his confessions are solid enough that the jury will say, this guy killed the girls. And I don't know what he said in the confession. So I pointed this out last time. I'm pointing it again. I'm waiting on the confessions. Not necessarily, not so much as, to prove he did it or not to prove he did it, but to see if there's enough evidence to convict him. I hope, since I went, I really don't understand what the prosecution thought they had to go to court with, unless these confessions are like phenomenal. Sometimes they will do an arrest in order to hold the person long enough to get them to confess. That is done. And that may be, they're like, we're going to go for those confessions. The question will be, how did they go for those confessions? Under what circumstances did they go for those confessions? What led him to those confessions? What did he say in those confessions? Was there anything in those confessions that you could absolutely think, my God, there's no question this guy did it? they're going to have to, that is it. I mean, that is what's going to, I don't know what they're presenting in the next few days or weeks. But the prosecution, the case is going to hang on that, to convince the jury that he is the guy, because nothing else really is strong enough. So anyway, those are my thoughts on where we're at now. The thing I hate to see the most, these two girls were brutally murdered. And if this guy did it, and this is the best case they can come up with, and they can't prove it with the confessions either, he will be found not guilty and go on his way. This case will probably remain unsolved. The only way it could be ever proven, the only way it could be solved at that point is they find somebody else who did do it, but they still have no physical evidence. So what are they going to come? I mean, it would have to be another confession, and that confession would have to be more believable than his confession. So somebody might give a deathbed confession, and based on that, they'll say, okay, well, we can close the case now. We know who did it. Is this justice? This isn't exactly the most inspiring case for police work and prosecutorial work, and getting the guy who committed this horrible crime and putting him away. It's not inspiring, shall we say. I think we're going to see quite a different situation in Idaho. I do. I think that case has got enough to take it to court, and a very, very strong prosecution. But this case, it's pretty weak is the word I can come up with. Weak. It's a very weak case. Doesn't mean I don't know if Alan did it. I can't prove Alan did it. All I can say is he's my top suspect because I don't. Here's the one thing I don't think they did. They had two better suspects. They didn't go after them. So I don't think he's being railroaded. I think they think he did it, and he may well have done it. There are some circumstantial pieces which make me lean toward him, that he was in the park, that he was wearing similar clothes, that he had a gun like the gun with the ammo that was like the ammo. I definitely lean toward Alan being the most likely person that I know of to have committed the crime. But that doesn't mean I think there's enough proof to convict him, because we do have a system that doesn't allow you to convict somebody on the thought that I think he's the best suspect is not conviction worthy. So anyway, those are my thoughts. We'll see what the week brings, the rest of the week. Again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. I will probably come back a number more times in different parts, depending on what they come up with. And I do hope, just because it would be nice, that this case is actually solved, that the prosecution has enough to solve it and convict. But we shall see what we shall see. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.